I've decided to call this video the greatest reset. So that's kind of not a play on words, but it's the title's been inspired by quite a well-known phrase, the Great Reset, which is and has been talked about over the past few years in certain circles of society, and a lot of people who are aware of what's going on and the powers behind government and global plans for one world government, one world currency, and all these things. They like to talk about a great reset, resetting human society, the global human society, which it's become, resetting it and making it easier for certain individuals, certain groups to be able to manage the billions of people currently on the planet. And so that's one understanding of the Great Reset. But I've titled this video the Greatest Reset because, as much as they might not want to think it or believe it, these so-called elites are actually serving a much higher purpose. And this purpose is what I like to call the greatest reset. And that is a resetting of human consciousness, maybe even the consciousness of the planet, of which humans are just the thinking neurons of, I'm not really sure. But from our perspective as humans, we're going through a big change in consciousness at the moment, and we're being forced into it. We've had so many distractions over, I don't know how many thousands of years. We've gone from a very low state of consciousness, killing people for practicing healing methods, to calling them witches. We've had certain figures come and talk about human rights, and there have been certain movements, and certainly over the past 100 years this has really quickened. And as this has quickened, we've also seen control systems try and clamp down on what they've got and feed the public even more and more distractions, toys. I mean, look at all the different forms of entertainment we've got now, at the same time when a lot of rights and freedoms are being taken away from us. This is all serving a much greater purpose than you, I, or any of the so-called elites. This is, from my perspective, evolution. As humanity, as human brothers and sisters, for far too long we've been separated into countries, religions, races, and we've lived this as our reality. We've taken it seriously. I'm white, this person's black, so you're different from me, therefore we should treat each other differently. It's a real sickness. And the greatest reset is a blessed divine healing that we've been gifted. Now, like most things, when you heal from them, at the moment, I'm suffering, I'm in a bit of pain, I've got an illness. That pain is the healing. And healing can, and normally is, painful. You've got to go through suffering before you can get to that wholeness, that healing. And that seems to be the case of what's happening on our planet. Individually, we're all having to face our own shadows. Our individual shadows, parts of ourselves that we've repressed, that we have neglected, said, no, that's not me, I don't like that, that's not good. These repressed parts of ourselves, parts of our egos, have collectively manifested the reality in which we live, which is a slave world. Inherently, if you were to ask the majority of people, do you want to be a slave or would you prefer to be free? They would choose freedom, because deep down they know that freedom is the inherent truth of what we are. We are freedom. We are infinite. These bodies and lives we have are just experiences, temporary experiences. But we all have a deep yearning to live freely and be free. Experience what we want to experience. Do what we want. But there are forces that are seemingly stopping that. Now, these forces have been manifested through our neglect of parts of ourselves, our shadow selves, which have collectivized, and we've created the situation that we're currently in. And it's getting to a point where a lot of people are at a breaking point. A lot of people, over the past couple of years certainly, but over the next few years it'll get more and more, are suffering. And this suffering brings a phenomenal opportunity for people to sit down and start giving themselves the love that they previously denied, which has created the controlling system on this planet. A lot of people were saying during the so-called pandemic of 2020 and until 2022, really, until this year, that the world being on lockdown had given people time to assess their lives and reassess what they're doing with themselves. And some people took that opportunity to go deep and start looking at healing these patterns and traumas that they've got inside themselves. Others turn to entertainment or alcohol to avoid feeling the pain. And from my perspective, if we want to partake in this, in the greatest reset, rather than the great reset, the choice has to be to go in and to start seeing and loving the parts of ourselves we've previously neglected. And we'll see what manifests from there. One can only imagine the tyranny that we have been put in on ourselves, the tyranny that the little voice that lives inside our heads that tyrannizes us. We can imagine, we've seen the power of what that can manifest in the world. Who knows what love could manifest? what kind of world would we live in if we treated ourselves the way we deserve to be treated?